My name is Bo, and this is the Shady Historian, where the tea is always hot. So I'm currently studying to become a historian at NYU, which is a very, very affordable school. And I wanted to make videos that were told from a queer, people of color, millennial standpoint. Today's video is going to focus on something that's actually very close, ironically, to my heart because I don't like children. I really just don't. As a nation begins to grapple with its history of its racist past, which aka really means that white people actually rediscovering that racism is an authentic experience for everyone else, there has been more focus on really also revamping our curriculum as it relates to the history that we teach our kids. Now, this is nothing new. There have been people talking and fighting on the ground to change the curriculum in our nation's schools for decades now. Amongst those people are revisionist historians. Now, revisionist historians are historians who have just been reimagining American history. That's how you get your Eric Foner's, your Howard Zinn, and they have been around since the end of the modern civil rights movement, going into also the counter-revolutionary movements of the 1970s. So there have been people talking about reimagining history now, which I can assure you is actually a great thing because the country is changing demographically. So by 2040, we're no longer going to be a white majority country. We're going to be a minority majority country. And those changes are actually happening right now in our nation's classroom. 52% of the students who are in our nation are actually minority students. So this is from K to 12. It's much more black students, much more Latinx, much more Asian American. So as these kids are looking through their textbooks, they're going to look for some kind of sense of identification on people who look like them. This is all exciting, right? Having more people of color in history, that's great. But one thing that I hope that we don't forget as we do this is also making sure that queer people of color are also a part of the narrative as well. Because unfortunately, we're written out of the narrative so often. For queer history, it becomes overwhelmingly white. And for people of color history, it's like we're not there either, almost. So it would be great if we revamp history and also include queer people of color in it as well. For instance, Black History Month, right? Like, I didn't know as a kid. I would always try to find like some kind of representation of myself, and I got the representation by race because there was always people like Martin Luther King that they would talk about, and they would talk about, depending on your t-shirt, job security, Malcolm X, right? And then they might go into Rosa Parks or, different figures that you see throughout history. Sometimes it'd be George Washington Carver, which is like, is he gay? Was he bi? Everyone seems to be bi. I never really got like a real representation or a clear representation more so, that someone who was like me was involved in history, And I was wondering like, where am I? Where can I be? It wasn't until I discovered Bayard Rustin that I found that individual. Now, Bayard Rustin was involved in the modern civil rights movement and was a leading strategist in the 1940s and 1950s and 1960s. But you don't really hear too much about him, and that's because he was written out of the narrative, because he was gay. Doesn't mean that there weren't any other figures who were a part of the movement as well, such as obviously James Baldwin or Reyes Hansberry. But unlike them, Rustin was a strategist. He was a leader. He was on the ground doing the community organizing work. So instrumental, and you don't hear about him. And part of the reason you don't hear about him is because he's gay. I think it would be really cool if, I found that out a lot earlier, that I wasn't 20 years old when I discovered that I found out when I was like 8 or 15 or 16, that there was someone who was like me, who was a part of a major movement in our history. So, as we revamp our curriculum to include more people of color representation, let's not forget our queer people of color as well. I mean, we're such an integral part of so much of American history. Whether that be Marsha P. Johnson, who helped spark the modern day gay rights movement across the entire world, or whether it be Barbara Jordan, there's so many examples of countless individuals who are a part of our history. And that would be really great for us as people to know about. But what do you think? Do you think it's really that important that kids today actually, have a sense of historical concept as it relates to people of color and the queer people of color, as they're most likely to be learning it via their iPads this fall, trying to avoid death. Happy Halloween. Leave a comment below and let me know. Also, if there's any other historical figures that you want to know more about as it relates to queer people of color, please leave those comments as well, because we might do a video on that in the future. Also, before I forget, because I definitely don't want to get my legs broken, I want to say A-Star for doing this. He's a new upcoming artist. Really appreciate him. If you like the music that was being played throughout this video, please also look below for the link and subscribe to his stuff as well. Super great. Shady Historian signing off. Bye.